presence lurks, a grotesque monument to a battle waged between heaven and hell. The Lincoln Imp, a creature of nightmare, forever frozen in stone, its malevolent gaze fixed upon those who enter its domain. The legend whispers through the centuries, a tale of demonic mischief and divine intervention. They say Satan, enraged by the construction of the magnificent cathedral, dispatched 2 imps, creatures of mischief and mayhem, to wreak havoc upon the holy site. The imps, gleeful in their destructive mission, descended upon the cathedral, their wicked laughter echoing through the sacred space. They toppled pillars, shattered stained glass, and desecrated the altar, their impish forms revelling in the chaos they created. An angel, witnessing the sacrilege, descended from the heavens, its radiant form filling the cathedral with a blinding light. The imps, caught in the divine radiance, cowered in fear, their wicked laughter turning into terrified whimpers. The angel, its voice booming with righteous anger, commanded the imps to cease their destruction. One imp, overcome by terror, immediately obeyed, shrinking into the shadows, hoping to escape the angel's wrath. But the other imp, defiant and insolent, hurled a rock at the celestial being. The angel, swift and merciless, raised its hand, and a bolt of divine energy struck the imp, transforming it into stone. The imp, forever frozen in its act of defiance, became a grotesque ornament within the cathedral, a chilling reminder of the power of good over evil. But the legend doesn't end there. Whispers persist, tales of the imp's malevolent spirit still lingering within the cathedral walls. They say its eyes, though turned to stone, still follow those who enter, its malevolent gaze a curse upon the unsuspecting. And on moonless nights, when the wind howls through the cathedral's arches, a faint, chilling laughter can be heard echoing through the hallowed halls, a haunting reminder of the imp's unholy presence. In the shadowed annals of maritime lore lies the chilling tale of the floating coffin of Charles Coghlan, a legend as haunting as the sea that carried it. Charles Coghlan, a celebrated actor born on Prince Edward Island, Canada, met his end far from home on November the 27th, 1899, in Galveston, Texas. His body was interred in a stately vault in Lakeview Cemetery, where it was thought to rest in peace. But the sea had other plans. The following year, in September 1900, the infamous Galveston hurricane struck with apocalyptic fury. Winds howled like banshees, and the surging waves claimed thousands of lives, including the dead already buried in the earth. Among the storm's grisly victims was Coghlan's coffin, torn from its resting place and cast into the raging Gulf waters. For years nothing was heard of the coffin's fate until a tale began to emerge. One whispered with disbelief and dread. According to legend, the coffin, guided by some unseen hand, or perhaps by Coghlan's unfulfilled yearning for home, drifted through the Gulf of Mexico, up the Atlantic coast, and across the icy waters, eventually washing ashore on the rugged shores of Prince Edward Island. There, it was said, his remains were laid to rest at last in the land of his birth, completing a ghostly journey of thousands of miles. Though modern accounts debunk the fantastical end of the legend, claiming his coffin was discovered in 1907, partially submerged in a marsh just 9 miles from Galveston, The eerie myth endures. Ripley's Believe It or Not immortalised the story in 1929, solidifying its place in folklore. Even now, the tale of Charles Colan's floating coffin remains a ghostly reminder of nature's wrath and the strange forces that seem to guide the dead. Whispers linger of his spirit still haunting the restless seas, a man forever tethered to the tides that carried him home. In the heart of ancient folklore, there exists a creature born from the earth itself, a hulking figure of clay and stone, shaped by human hands, but driven by dark, unnatural forces. This creature is known as the Golem, and its legend has haunted the corners of Eastern Europe for centuries. The Golem is not a creature of grace. It is slow, lumbering, and awkward in its movements, a giant made of lifeless matter, animated only by the dark magic that gives it form. Its body is a rough, uneven mass of clay or rock, patched together with crude seams, and its face is blank, expressionless, an unfeeling mask devoid of humanity. Some say it was created to serve its master, a protector summoned from the earth itself to do his bidding. Others whisper that the Golem was born from desperation, created by a rabbi or wizard to avenge wrongs too terrible to bear. In modern Hebrew, the word Golem translates to cocoon, but it also carries darker meanings: fool, silly, or stupid. And indeed, the Golem is often described as lacking in intelligence, nothing more than a clumsy tool of destruction, incapable of independent thought or action. But this is where the terror begins, because while the Golem is a mindless servant, it is also a force of nature, a brute, unstoppable and powerful, with strength far beyond that of any human. Once unleashed, it will follow its master's commands without question, no matter how horrific. And yet, when those commands are left unclear or unrestrained, the creature can become a terror in its own right, wreaking havoc in its mindless pursuit of tasks it cannot understand. The Golem is said to be bound by a single, fragile command: the inscription of a word, often placed on a piece of parchment and placed inside its mouth. Without this word, the creature is a blank slate, mindless and deadly, its power unchecked. In the ancient stories, there were whispers of golems running amok, destroying villages, crushing anyone who crossed their path, all because their creators failed to control them. And so, the Golem is a warning, a tale of what happens when humanity meddles too far with the natural order, summoning forces they cannot control. Some say the Golem still walks the earth, waiting for a master to breathe life back into its stone heart. But be careful, if the Golem ever awakens again, it will not stop, no matter how clumsy or foolish its creators may have been. Clinton Road, a desolate stretch of asphalt in the heart of New Jersey, is infamous for its eerie atmosphere and the legends that cling to it like a cold mist. One of the most chilling of these stories is the tale of the ghost boy who haunts the old bridge along the road, forever waiting in the dark for those brave or foolish enough to seek him out. The legend begins with a tragic tale of a young boy who died under mysterious circumstances many years ago. Some say he drowned in the murky waters beneath the bridge. Others whisper that he was a victim of an accident, but no one truly knows. What is certain, however, is that his spirit never left the bridge. Instead it lingered, bound to the spot by the horrors of his untimely death, waiting for those who might encounter him in the dead of night. The story goes that if you visit the bridge on a quiet, moonless night and throw a coin into the dark waters below, something strange will happen. At first, it might seem like nothing more than a silly superstition, but as the night stretches on, the air will begin to feel heavy, thick with an unnatural silence. The shadows around the bridge will grow deeper, and you may feel an unsettling chill on the back of your neck, as if you're being watched. Then, if you return to the spot after a time, you may find the coin you tossed into the water resting at your feet, returned to you as though by some unseen hand. At first, it's easy to dismiss this as coincidence. Perhaps the current brought it back, or it was there all along. But those who have returned again and again tell a different tale. The coin isn't just lying in the same spot, it's placed right in front of you, as if someone or something wants you to find it. But the most chilling part of the story is the boy, some say. In the moments before the coin is returned, they've seen him, standing just out of reach, a small, pale figure. His face is obscured in the darkness, but his eyes are unmistakable, empty, hollow, staring at you with an otherworldly intensity. He does not speak. He simply watches, waiting. And when you turn away, even for a second, the coin is there. Returned as if by magic, the boy's intentions remain unclear. Is he trying to communicate? Or is this some twisted game he plays with those who dare approach? No one knows, but one thing is certain. There is something deeply unsettling about the presence that haunts that bridge. Many claim that after encountering the ghost boy, they feel an overwhelming sense of unease, a feeling that they are never truly alone, no matter where they go. And so the legend of the ghost boy persists, drawing thrill seekers and curious souls to Clinton Road, where the line between life and death seems thinner than anywhere else. But for those who dare venture near the bridge, remember this: once you make contact with the boy, once you feel his eyes upon you, it may be too late to ever leave that haunted place behind, because some spirits never let go. On the eerie evening of September the 20th, 1965, in the quiet seaside town of Felixstowe, England, a terrifying event unfolded, one that would become known as the legend of the Felixstowe fire demon. Witnesses claimed to have seen something unnatural that night, an encounter so horrifying that it would haunt the town's memory for years to come. It began with strange lights in the sky. Around midnight, residents reported seeing glowing red and orange orbs floating above the coastline, moving with unnatural speed. Felixstowe's residence, it was what came next. A young couple, drawn by the unusual lights, ventured closer to the shore. As they approached, a figure emerged from the darkness, illuminated by the fiery glow. They described it as a tall, humanoid being, yet something was horribly wrong. The creature's body seemed to shimmer with a heat wave-like distortion, as though it was surrounded by invisible flames. Its eyes were fiery embers, burning with a malevolent red glow that seemed to pierce straight into their souls. The couple stood frozen as the entity approached, its movements slow and deliberate, almost predatory. A faint crackling sound, like the hiss of burning coals, filled the air, and the air around them grew stiflingly hot. The creature stretched out a long, claw-like hand, and in that moment the couple fled, overwhelmed by an overwhelming sense of dread. They ran through the darkened streets, their minds reeling from what they'd just encountered. Other townspeople reported feeling an inexplicable heat that night, even inside their homes, as if the fire demon had cast a spell of warmth across the entire town. Some claimed that the creature had left scorched footprints along the beach, deep impressions jarred into the sand that no waves could wash away. But by morning, there was no trace of the creature, only the lingering terror of its fiery gaze and the charred marks left in its wake. Local authorities dismissed the event, attributing the lights to atmospheric phenomena and the creature to the overactive imaginations of frightened witnesses. But those who saw the Felixstowe fire demon knew the truth. A being from another world, forged in fire, had stepped into their world, leaving a scar in Felixstowe's memory that would never fade. Today, the legend of the Felixstowe fire demon endures, a chilling reminder that some mysteries defy explanation. On stormy nights, when the sea crashes against the shore, residents sometimes claim to see a fiery glow flickering in the distance, as if the fire demon still haunts the coast, waiting to emerge from the shadows once again. In the shadowed halls of Japan's schools, a chilling legend whispers through the corridors, one that students speak of in hushed tones and avoid at all costs. It is the tale of Hanako-san, the ghost of a young girl who haunts the bathrooms, her presence bound to the third stall on the third floor, and if you dare to summon her, you might never leave the bathroom alive. Hanako-san, a vengeful spirit, or perhaps a restless yokai, is said to have met a tragic death long ago. Some say she drowned in the school's toilet. Others whisper that she was the victim of a gruesome murder, her young life stolen away in the most violent of ways. But whatever the truth, she now haunts the restroom, waiting for those foolish enough to disturb her peace. To summon Hanako-san, you must enter a girl's bathroom, most commonly the one on the third floor of the school, and stand before the third stall. There, in the cold silence, you must knock 3 times on the door. With each knock, the air thickens, growing heavier, colder, as though something or someone is listening. After the final knock, you must ask, "Is Hanako-san there?" If she responds, her voice soft and haunting, a chill will crawl up your spine, and the door will slowly creak open. But beware, what you might see is not a friendly face. Hanako-san is often described as a small girl with short black hair, wearing an old-fashioned school uniform, her face obscured by shadow. Her eyes, if you catch a glimpse of them, are dark voids that seem to draw you in, pulling you closer to an inevitable doom. Some say she will drag you into the toilet, others that she will simply vanish, leaving only a sense of dread and the stench of death in the air. But no matter what you see, one thing is certain. Those who seek her out rarely return unchanged. They are marked by an unsettling presence, a shadow that follows them, and a fear of bathrooms that never truly fades. So, remember this. If you ever hear a knock from the third stall, or feel a cold hand on your shoulder when you least expect it, you'll know Hanako-san is there, waiting, watching, always watching. In the chilling depths of Staten Island's folklore, a sinister figure known as Cropsey stalks the nightmares of those who dare to whisper his name. Originally conceived as a boogeyman to scare children into obedience, Cropsey evolved into a far more horrifying reality, merging with the true crimes of a man named Andre Rand, whose deeds during the 1970s and 1980s turned him into a living embodiment of the legend. The tale of Cropsey began as a ghost story, one that parents recounted during hushed evenings, a spectral figure lurking in the shadows of the woods, preying on wayward children who strayed too far from home. Descriptions varied, but all agreed on his ghastly demeanour, a disfigured face, haunting eyes, and a hook for a hand, dragging behind him the echoes of chains he rattled, a warning in the wind. As the urban legend grew, so did Cropsey's malevolence. He was said to reside in the ruins of the abandoned Willowbrook State School, a place already steeped in dark history due to its controversial past, as a residence for children with disabilities, subjected to horrendous conditions. Here, Cropsey found his sinister refuge, emerging under the cloak of night to chase the echoes of laughter with a hunter's glee. But the line between myth and reality blurred horrifically when children in Staten Island began to disappear in the 1970s and 80s. Panic gripped the community as the legend of Cropsey seemed to come alive. And then came Andre Rand, a former employee of the Willowbrook State School. When he was arrested in connection with the disappearances, the people of Staten Island were aghast to find that their boogeyman had taken human form. Rand was convicted of kidnapping, and the community was forced to confront the terrifying possibility that Cropsey was not just a tale to frighten children, but a real predator walking among them. Each trial brought more attention to the legend, each disappearance a grim chapter added to the lore. Today, the story of Cropsey remains a macabre token of Staten Island's history. The dilapidated structures of Willowbrook still stand, overgrown and forsaken, yet pulsing with the dark heartbeat of past atrocities. Those who venture near claim to feel a chilling presence, hear the faint rattle of chains, or see a shadow dart between the trees. Cropsey has transcended his origins as a mere boogeyman to become a symbol of real-life horrors, a cautionary tale that warns of the monsters that may dwell not just in our stories, but in the very heart of our communities. Deep in the shadowy swamps of Fuke, Arkansas, a creature is said to roam, a nightmarish figure known as the Fuke Monster, also called the Boggy Creek Monster or Swamp Stalker. This beast has haunted the imagination of locals for decades, a being cloaked in mystery, terror, and shadow. The first chilling sightings began in the early 1970s. Witnesses described a hulking, ape-like creature standing over 7 feet tall, its body covered in dark matted hair. Its eyes glowed with an unholy red light, piercing through the dense fog that clings to the swamps. The creature was said to emit a low, guttural growl that sent shivers down the spine, a sound that seemed to echo deep into the forest, warning all who dared approach. The Fook monster didn't just lurk in the shadows. It was rumoured to stalk homes and farms on the edges of the swamp. In one particularly terrifying account, a family claimed the beast attacked their rural home, smashing through windows and clawing at doors in a frenzy. When they fired shots at it, the creature let out a blood-curdling scream and disappeared into the woods, leaving behind massive three-toed footprints and a lingering sense of dread. Locals began to avoid the swamp at night, whispering that the creature was not merely an animal, but something darker, perhaps a spirit of the land, an ancient guardian awakened by trespassers. The area became steeped in fear, and many who ventured too close reported strange sounds, eerie movements in the underbrush, and an overwhelming sense of being watched. Even today, the legend of the Fook monster persists. Some say it still stalks the Boggy Creek area, its red eyes glowing in the dark, waiting for the unwary to stumble into its domain. Others claim to have heard its haunting growl in the dead of night, a reminder that some creatures are meant to remain unseen, lurking in the shadows of the swamp, forever untamed. In the quiet town of Dover, Massachusetts, nestled among winding roads and dense woods, a terrifying legend emerged over 2 nights in April 1977. It was here, in the dark shadows and eerie silence, that a creature known as the Dover Demon first appeared, a sight so chilling that its image still haunts those who witnessed it, and its legend has woven itself into the fabric of local lore. On the night of April 21st, 3 teenagers were driving along Farm Street when one of them, a 17-year-old named Bill Bartlett, caught sight of something unusual at the edge of his headlights. At first, he thought it was a small animal crouched along a stone wall, but as he focused, he realised this was no animal. Staring back at him was a figure unlike anything he'd ever seen. Small, barely 4 feet tall, with a large bulbous head, too big for its thin, fragile-looking body. Its skin was a strange, pale, almost chalky colour, and it had long, thin limbs that seemed unsettlingly out of proportion. The most disturbing detail, however, was its eyes. Large, glowing orange orbs that seemed to reflect back the light, piercing and unnatural, as if they were staring straight into his soul. Bartlett froze, watching as the creature clung to the rocks with an almost human grasp, its long fingers wrapping around the stones like a spider's legs. For a brief moment, the two locked eyes, and an intense wave of fear washed over him. Then, as quickly as it had appeared, the creature scuttled into the woods, vanishing into the night. Shaken, Bartlett told his friends about the encounter, but it didn't end there. The very next night, another sighting occurred, this time by a 15-year-old boy named John Baxter, who was walking home along Miller Hill Road. He described seeing a similar creature standing by the trees, watching him with those same haunting eyes. Baxter tried to approach, but the figure slipped into the shadows, melting into the woods with an unnatural silence. Terrified, Baxter fled, convinced he'd encountered something otherworldly. The following night, yet another teenager, Abby Brabham, reported seeing the same creature while driving near Springdale match the others. An eerily pale, thin figure with a head too large for its body and those unforgettably large glowing eyes. By now, the sightings had spread through the small town, sending chills through the community and sparking wild speculation. Over time, the stories evolved, with locals suggesting all kinds of explanations. Some believed it was an alien, a visitor from another world, accidentally stranded in Dover, while others were certain it was some undiscovered creature lurking in the New England woods. Paranormal enthusiasts speculated that it was a being from another dimension, slipping in and out of our reality, leaving only fleeting glimpses and unsettling memories. But for those who saw it, the Dover demon was real, a creature they could never unsee. The sighting sparked fear, yet a morbid curiosity lingered. Some residents ventured into the woods with flashlights, hoping to catch a glimpse of the creature. But the Dover demon never showed itself again. It had left its mark, a shadow of dread that hung over Dover's quiet streets, yet its absence only deepened the mystery. Skeptics dismissed the encounters as the result of overactive imaginations or youthful hysteria, but those who witnessed it knew the fear was real, a gut-wrenching terror that could not be explained away. To this day, the Dover demon remains a chilling mystery, an enigma that defies explanation. Sightings have faded, but the story endures, passed down through generations as a ghostly reminder of something that walked among them, something that did not belong. The children of Dover grow up hearing the legend, warned not to wander too far into the woods at night, for fear of encountering the creature with the orange eyes. And on dark, moonless nights, some claim they still see strange shapes moving at the edge of the forest, a fleeting shadow with glowing eyes that vanish the moment you try to focus on them, whether it was a visitor from another realm or simply a trick of the dark. The Dover demon has carved its place in the dark folklore of Massachusetts, a ghostly figure forever haunting the wooded paths of Dover. Those who walk these paths feel a chill in the air, an unshakable feeling that something is watching, waiting just beyond sight, with hollow eyes and a chilling stare that pierces through the night. The Dover demon may be gone, but his legend lives on, a tale of terror and mystery, warning all who listen. Sometimes the darkness holds more than shadows, and some creatures are never meant to be seen. In 1972, artist Bill Stoneham created a painting that would become infamous for its unsettling aura and terrifying legend. The Hands Resist Him depicts a young boy and a doll standing in front of a glass-panelled door, behind which dozens of disembodied hands are pressed against the glass, reaching, clawing, trying to break through. But it is not just the eerie image that haunts those who see it. It is the belief that the painting's characters are not as still as they seem. The legend surrounding the painting is chilling. Some claim that at night, when the lights go out and the house falls silent, the boy and the doll begin to move. The boy, with his vacant stare, steps forward from the painting, while the hands on the glass seem to writhe, as if alive. The doll, always watching, has been said to wander the room, creeping silently across the floor. Those unlucky enough to own the painting report strange occurrences, items going missing, cold drafts, and the feeling of being watched when no one is there. But the true terror lies in the whispers that the boy and the doll sometimes leave the painting entirely. They step out of the canvas and into the world, taking on a life of their own, only to return before morning's light. No one knows where they go or what they do when they leave, but the horror is clear. The painting is not a simple image. It is a doorway, and the figures within it are not bound by the limits of the frame. forests of Bear Creek, North Carolina, lies a patch of barren earth known as the Devil's Tramping Ground. This ominous circle, located near Harper's Crossroads, is a chilling 40-foot ring where no vegetation grows and no animal dares linger. Locals claim it's cursed, a place haunted by the devil himself, who treads this ground nightly in a sinister ritual. For centuries, stories have circulated about the eerie clearing. People say that when midnight falls, the devil rises from the underworld, pacing the circle with dark intent, plotting his next act of evil. His heavy, unseen footsteps scorch the earth, leaving it lifeless, unable to support even the smallest blade of grass. No matter how much time passes, or how often people try to replant it, nothing grows in the devil's circle. Brave souls who have attempted to camp within the ring tell of inexplicable occurrences. They report feelings of dread so intense, it's as if a dark presence stands beside them, watching. Items left inside the circle are mysteriously found outside by morning, as if some unseen force cast them aside, angry at their intrusion. Others claim to hear faint whispers in the night, growing louder until they're forced to flee, their minds unravelling from the chilling sensation of being stalked by something unseen. Locals warn that nothing stays in the devil's tramping ground without consequence. Those who have dared to linger too long, mocking the legend, have reported strange misfortunes afterward. Accidents, illnesses, and haunting nightmares of a dark figure pacing circles around them, his fiery eyes fixed upon their very soul. The devil's tramping ground remains, a barren, haunted scar in the woods of North Carolina. It is a place that repels life, an eternal reminder of an ancient evil lurking beneath the surface. And so, the warning endures. If you find yourself near Bear Creek, steer clear of the circle, for the devil still paces there, leaving his mark on the earth, and perhaps on any soul foolish enough to cross his path. In the late 1970s, a quiet council house at 284 Green Street in Enfield, London, became the centre of one of England's most chilling supernatural tales, the Enfield Poltergeist. Between 1977 and 1979, the Hodgson family, especially two young sisters, Janet and Margaret, found themselves at the mercy of a malevolent force lurking within their home. What began as strange noises soon spiralled into a full-blown haunting that would terrify all who witnessed it. The haunting started subtly, objects shifting, knocking sounds echoing through the night. But as days passed, the activity grew more violent. Furniture slid across rooms by unseen hands, toys flew through the air, and chilling voices filled the house. At the heart of it all was Janet, just 11 years old, who appeared to be the poltergeist's primary target. She would often fall into violent trances, speaking in a guttural voice that was far from her own, claiming to be an old man who had died in the house. Witnesses, including police officers and paranormal investigators, were horrified as they saw objects move and heard disembodied voices with their own eyes and ears. One officer reported seeing a heavy chair slide across the floor, while investigators observed Janet levitating and being thrown from her bed as if lifted by invisible hands. The poltergeist's presence was relentless, bringing a sense of dread and terror to everyone involved. Attempts to communicate with the spirit revealed its bitter rage and violent intent. It would mock the family, taunt the investigators, and even threaten anyone who dared to interfere. Those who entered the house often felt an overwhelming coldness, a suffocating presence pressing down on them. The Enfield poltergeist remains a mystery, dividing skeptics and believers alike. Some claim it was a hoax, a trick played by young girls seeking attention, but others insist the terror was real, that the house on Green Street was truly haunted by a force beyond this world. Even today, the Enfield poltergeist stands as one of the most disturbing cases of supernatural activity, a dark chapter in London's history that lingers in the shadows, a warning that some spirits do not rest easily. In the still, silent nights of Fresno, California, an unsettling legend stalks the imagination of locals, the Fresno Nightcrawlers. First captured on CCTV footage, these strange, otherworldly creatures have haunted the town's darkened streets, their appearance as bizarre as it is terrifying. Described as white, elongated beings with impossibly long legs and tiny featureless torsos, they move with an eerie, almost hypnotic gait, as if gliding rather than walking. To many, they resemble nothing more than disembodied, ghostly pairs of trousers, yet their unsettling presence is anything but laughable. The first sighting came from a homeowner who, curious about strange noises outside, reviewed their security footage. What they saw left them speechless. Two pale figures emerging from the shadows, their legs stretched unnaturally tall, each step slow and deliberate, almost as if they were floating. The smaller of the two trailed behind, its movement unnervingly synchronized with the larger one. As they vanished into the night, the homeowner was left with a chilling realization. Whatever these beings were, they were not human. The footage quickly spread, drawing the attention of cryptid enthusiasts and skeptics alike. Some claimed the Nightcrawlers were extraterrestrial visitors, their strange forms adapted to a planet with gravity unlike Earth's. Others whispered that they were spirits, ancient guardians tied to the land, warning of some impending doom. Still, others feared they were harbingers of something far darker, beings from another dimension, crossing into our world for reasons unknown. The sightings didn't stop. Reports emerged of people spotting the Nightcrawlers in nearby woods, gliding silently among the trees, their spindly forms illuminated by the pale light of the moon. Hikers described the forest growing unnaturally quiet, the air thick with unease, as if the creatures were aware of their presence and watching from just out of sight. Some who encountered them spoke of an overwhelming dread, a primal fear that gripped their hearts and left them paralyzed. Locals now warn against wandering too far into the dark Fresno woods, especially at night. Those who've ventured too close to where the Nightcrawlers have been seen report strange phenomena, unexplainable static on devices, sudden cold spots, and faint whispering sounds that seem to follow them home. To this day, no one knows what the Fresno Nightcrawlers are or what they want. Skeptics dismiss them as clever hoaxes or optical illusions, but those who've seen the footage or encountered them firsthand tell a different story. They believe the Nightcrawlers are watching, observing humanity with motives shrouded in mystery. Their slow, silent steps are warning to stay away. The Fresno Nightcrawlers remain one of the most bizarre and chilling cryptid tales in modern folklore, a reminder that some things move through the shadows of our world, unnoticed until they choose to reveal themselves, leaving nothing but fear in their wake. In the shadowy annals of New England's history, amidst tales of spectral figures and cursed lands, the story of Eunice 17th century. Goody Cole was an enigmatic figure, her life shrouded in misfortune and mystery. First accused of witchcraft in 1656, she became the scapegoat for every disaster that befell the town, from unexplained deaths to failing crops and dying livestock. Her neighbours' fear and suspicion branded her an outcast, a woman touched by the devil himself. The townsfolk whispered that she could be seen muttering to herself in the woods, concocting strange brews and communing with unseen forces. Children dared each other to peek through her dimly lit windows, only to flee in terror at the sight of her shadowy form bending over a flickering flame. It was said that she cast curses with a glance and summoned storms with a wave of her gnarled hands. Her repute as a witch grew so dire that in 1673 she was accused once more. This time, the evidence was more damning, the fear more palpable. They dragged her before the court, her eyes blazing with defiance as the charges were read. Found guilty, she was sentenced to imprisonment, her final years spent in the cold, dark confines of a cell, where she was left to languish, forgotten by all but those who feared her curse. But death did not bring Goody Cole peace. The town, eager to rid itself of her malignant influence once and for all, buried her in an unmarked grave at the edge of the cemetery. They drove a stake through the heart of her plot, a grim ritual to prevent her tormented spirit from rising and haunting them. Yet, this act only solidified her legend, and it was said that her spirit lingered, malevolent and vengeful. To this day, eerie occurrences in Brentwood are often whispered to be the workings of Goody Cole's restless ghost. On stormy nights, some claim to see her figure in the flashes of lightning, wandering the woods or standing by her unmarked grave, still bound by the town's collective dread. Her legend has become a chilling reminder of the power of fear and the lasting stain of injustice, her story echoing through the centuries as a spectral tale of a woman wronged, her vengeance immortalised in the whispered fears of those who remember. We dive into the eerie legend of the Chonchon, a mythical creature that haunts the night skies. Let its chilling tale lull you into a peaceful sleep, if you dare. Deep in the shadowy forests of Chile and southern Argentina, an ancient terror lurks in the night, whispered in hushed tones among villagers. The Chonchon is no ordinary creature. Its very existence defies nature, sending shivers down the spines of those who dare speak its name. Legend has it that the Chonchon is not a bird, but a cursed being, a sorcerer who has performed a dark ritual to transform into this horrifying creature. In the dead of night, the sorcerer's head detaches from its body, sprouting enormous wings from the ears. Blood-curdling cries, like the screams of 1,000 tormented souls, signal its arrival. The sound, known as choo-choo, chills the air, forewarning death for anyone who hears it. They say the Chonchon soars through the night skies in search of prey, gliding silently above the rooftops of unsuspecting villages. Those unfortunate enough to cross its path rarely live to tell the tale. It is said that the Chonchon can slip into homes undetected, like a whisper on the wind, draining the life force of its victims, leaving them pale and hollow by dawn. Those who survive its attack are left forever haunted, their minds shattered by the encounter. Many have tried to catch a glimpse of the Chonchon, but only a few ever return from their hunts, and those who do are never the same again. Their descriptions are fragmented, as though the horror of what they witnessed burned itself into their minds. The Chonchon's eyes, they say, are glowing red orbs, filled with a malevolent intelligence far older than time. Its wings beat with unnatural silence, a deadly predator slipping through the night like a phantom. It is said that only the most skilled of shamans can undo the curse of the Jean-Jean, but these rituals are dangerous, and failure means the sorcerer's twisted form will be free to wreak havoc for eternity. To this day, villagers lock their doors and windows tight when they hear the faintest whisper of the Jean-Jean's cry. The wind, though invisible, might carry death with it, for the Jean-Jean does not rest. It hungers, always searching for its next victim, always lurking in the darkness, just out of sight. So, beware the stillness of the night, for you may never know if the next faint flap of wings you hear belongs to the Jean-Jean until it's too late. In the shadowed peaks of California's Santa Lucia Range, there exists a haunting legend that has persisted for centuries. Known as the Dark Watchers, or as early Spanish settlers called them, Los Vigilantes Oscuros, these mysterious figures are said to lurk among the cliffs and ridges, observing anyone who dares wander too close. They are tall, towering silhouettes, human-like, yet somehow larger than life, standing motionless against the horizon, watching in silence. No one knows who or what they are, or why they appear, but every sighting comes with a feeling of dread, as if these dark sentinels hold secrets that mortals were never meant to uncover. Travellers who venture into the mountains often report a strange sense of being watched, even when alone. As they scan the landscape, they see them, figures draped in darkness, always at a distance, their outlines clear, but their features impossible to discern. They wear what appear to be long cloaks and wide-brimmed hats, though some say the figures shift and blur if looked at too long, fading into shadows, as if they were never there at all. Yet they reappear moments later, always at the edge of sight, still watching, waiting. Many believe that the Dark Watchers are ancient spirits, protectors of the mountains, or perhaps remnants of a darker time, cursed to roam these peaks eternally. Legend has it that they don't take kindly to those who venture too deeply into their territory. One story tells of a hiker who, upon noticing a figure in the distance, tried to approach it. As he drew closer, he felt an icy chill spreading through his body, a whisper on the wind urging him to turn back. When he ignored it and moved forward, the figure seemed to grow taller, its shadow stretching, consuming the very light around him. Panicked, the hiker ran, but the feeling of the Watcher's gaze followed him, haunting him for years afterward. Another tale describes a group of campers who spotted a Dark Watcher at dusk, outlined against the setting sun. They watched in terror as it seemed to raise an arm, pointing directly at them, though no face could be seen. That night, the campers awoke to strange sounds outside their tent. A soft rustling, like fabric brushing against stone. In the morning, they found strange footprints around their camp, impossibly large, yet vanishing abruptly, as if the entity had simply melted into the mountain itself. People say that the Dark Watchers cannot be approached or interacted with. Those who have tried to take photographs or call out to them find that their equipment malfunctions, their voices swallowed by the stillness. The Watchers simply observe, their intentions unfathomable, as if bound by a purpose known only to them. Locals warn hikers to leave offerings if they must enter the mountains. We unravel a chilling urban legend that will send shivers down your spine. Relax, close your eyes, and listen closely as we explore the celebrity death rule of threes, where fame meets fate. There's an unsettling superstition whispered among those who follow the lives of the rich and famous. It's known as the celebrity death rule of threes. According to the legend, when one celebrity dies, it's never alone. Soon after, another will follow, and then a third, completing the grim trilogy. Some dismiss it as coincidence, but for those who believe, it's a chilling curse that's all too real. It begins with an unexpected death, a movie star, a politician, or a beloved public figure. Their death sends shockwaves through the world, but instead of mourning in peace, those who know the rule brace themselves. The air thickens with dread as everyone watches, waiting for the next famous name to drop. It always happens. A second dies, sometimes in a freak accident, other times from a sudden illness. And before anyone can fully comprehend the loss, a third is gone, sealing the pattern. The media, of course, reports each death as its own tragedy, but those who know the rules sense something more sinister at work. The connections between the deaths seem too eerie to ignore. Sometimes they've all worked together, met each other at events, or shared a strange bond. Other times, the deaths are separated by oceans, yet the pattern persists. 1, 2, 3, like clockwork, the reaper collects his due. Some say the rule traces back to ancient beliefs, where powerful individuals were thought to be marked by destiny, their lives intertwined in mysterious ways. Others believe it's the consequence of fame itself, a dark energy that surrounds those who rise too high. A few even whisper that behind the scenes, there's a secret group that orchestrates these deaths, a shadowy cabal pulling the strings to keep the balance. Whatever the cause, the rule has been proven time and time again. Celebrity after celebrity, politician after politician, falling in threes, as if the universe demands their lives in groups, is a haunting reminder that no matter how famous, how untouchable, no one can escape the inevitable. And the scariest part, it's only a matter of time before the cycle begins again. One dies, and you know, two more will follow, completing the trio before the rule rests. For now. In the quiet town of Frederica, Delaware, there's a chilling legend that haunts the streets every Halloween night. It is the story of the hanging man, a figure that appears under the dim glow of the full moon, swinging silently from the branches of a tree along a desolate stretch of road. Years ago, a 42-year-old woman, driven by despair, took her own life in the dead of night, hanging herself from a tree by the roadside. Her body was found the next morning, cold and lifeless, her face twisted in a final, agonizing expression. But that should have been the end of the story. It wasn't. The first Halloween after her death, strange things began to happen. Drivers travelling along that stretch of road reported seeing a figure hanging from the tree, a silhouette swinging gently in the breeze, though no one had ever tied a rope there. But when they stopped to investigate, no body could be found. As the years went on, the sightings grew more frequent. Locals would whisper of a shadowy figure, always at midnight, hanging from the same tree, her body swaying as though caught in an invisible wind. But that's not the worst part. There are those who claim that if you stop your car near the tree on Halloween night and stare long enough, you can see the woman's face, twisted, pale, and filled with sorrow. Some say she will call out to you, pleading for help, her voice barely a whisper in the wind. and some believe that if you listen too long, if you dare to look too deep,